It's often said that the men and women who fought in World War I and World War II died fighting for the freedoms of European people, and perhaps more broadly, they died. These veterans are said to have died for our freedoms, so that you know, the likes of Adolf Hitler and the Nazis and the fascists from Italy, like Mussolini, and also you have Francisco Franco from Spain, and other evil men. And that's not to say they were not evil. Yes, they were evil. Adolf Hitler was evil, but he was just a puppet, and I'll get into some of that in this video. So we're constantly being reminded about how these World War I and World War II veterans died fighting for us. But the truth is that these men and women, as much as they were sincere in what they were doing, they actually died for a lie. They did not die for you and me. The only one who died for you and I is Jesus. Okay. Going back to these veterans of World War I and World War II, they died fighting for the Catholic Church, and most of them died not knowing that that's the cause they were fighting for. What you have to bear in mind is that most of the wars, even going as far back as the Crusades, the Crusades were fought mostly by Roman Catholics who were fighting to regain control of Jerusalem after it had been taken by the Muslims. There's actually a quote where it is said that whilst the world is having pain, Rome is having champagne. So Rome, and when I say Rome, I mean the Catholic Church, the Vatican, and the Jesuit order, and all their their orders and their think tanks, and all these evil men and women who are pushing for the establishment of a new world order, basically. And I explained this in one of my other videos, where I explained that the new world order is when the Catholic Church rules the world, but they do it through various organizations, so that it's not so easy to, so it's not so obvious. I mean, one of the things they do is that the Catholic Church works through the military industrial complex, which is based in the US, and then they work through banking and through public education and through the media and all these, and they work through think tanks like the World Economic Forum. Okay, but that's not what I'm talking about in this video. I'm just talking about I'm asking the question: did World War I and World War II veterans die for you and me? And the answer is no. The only one who died for us is Jesus Christ. Okay, he's the real hero who died fighting for our freedom. Okay, and fighting for our redemption. So what were the real issues behind World War I and World War II? Well, the issues were that these wars were actually part of the Counter-Reformation. They were Catholic wars which were being fought against Protestant countries. So if we just look at Adolf Hitler, for instance, Adolf Hitler was actually a Jesuit puppet. And I've actually got a book called Smoke Screens, in which Adolf Hitler is quoted as saying that he fashioned the SS after the Jesuit order. And if I remember correctly, Adolf Hitler said that Heinrich Himmler was like Ignatius Loyola, and there's actually a fact which is quite is well known, but I think sometimes it's a bit difficult for people to make the connections between, let's say, Adolf Hitler, the Nazis, and the Catholic Church. But Adolf Hitler, the thing I want to say about Adolf Hitler, and this commonly well-known fact, because I was even taught this in school, in public school, was that Adolf Hitler was Roman Catholic. Okay. But maybe it's because of a lack of understanding. Most people think there's nothing sinister about that, but what you have to understand is that Hitler and the Nazis were fighting for the Catholic Church. And that's why when Hitler was said to have committed suicide, which I don't believe he did. I don't believe Adolf Hitler killed himself in a bunker at the end of World War II, after it was realized that Germany was going to lose the war. I believe that Adolf Hitler escaped and went to Argentina. And even I think it's Jorge Milei, the president of Argentina, has declassified some documents earlier on in 2025, in early 2025, stating that Adolf Hitler had actually escaped to Argentina and actually had fathered 2 daughters whilst there. Excuse me. So most of the official stories behind what we are told happened in major events, whether it be 9/11 or even the Charlie Kirk in quotes assassination, which was a hoax basically, and this pandemic. Most of these things are staged psychological events to herd human beings in a certain direction so that they accept a pre-planned agenda, such as the total enslavement of every man, woman, and child on this earth through a digital grid enslavement system, or a digital dark age, as someone said on the comments section of a YouTube channel, of a YouTube video. So what you have to remember is that maybe some of you don't even know this, because this is not really taught in school. These are what I'm going to say. Most of what I'm going to say in this video these are facts that you have to search for yourself. Remember that truth is like hidden treasure. You have to dig for it. It doesn't come to you whilst you're sitting on your couch or your sofa watching TV, whilst holding a remote control, thinking that you're in control. All that is the media is controlled by the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church has said that it is her birthright to own all forms of media. That includes the internet and TV and radio, and yeah, all forms of media basically. So World War I and World War II, and even some of the wars that were fought before that, were a reaction to the Protestant Reformation, in which many countries, especially in Europe, had broken away from the Catholic Church. That's why you find that Germany was broken up into 2. There was West Germany, and then there was East Germany, and then East Germany, which is where most of the Protestants were, was handed over to the Russians, who were communist. And obviously in communism, communists don't believe in religion. Okay, they don't believe in God. So that led to the suppression of Christianity in East Germany. So that's a very, very interesting fact. I mean, it's something that's overlooked by many, even Christians, when they're reading history. They don't understand that the reason why Germany was partitioned into West and East is because East Germany was full of Protestants, and that was handed over to the communists, who then obviously suppressed Christians there. Okay. The East Germany, to be more specific, was very Lutheran. Okay. And then, so now, just going back to the issue of the veterans specifically, is this whole notion that they died fighting for our freedoms. Remember these evil men, especially Jesuits and others who are working with them. They are so evil that they don't care whether these wars that they instigate and orchestrate will lead to the death of even millions, which is exactly what happened in World War I and World War II. They don't care about that, okay? Because sometimes I think what happens is in our minds, we can't fathom how someone or how some people can be so evil as to instigate a war that is actually totally unnecessary. But what you have to remember is that when you go to the oath of the Jesuits, is that they will cause even nations that were living in peace with each other to fight each other, so that in the end the Roman Catholic Church may be the gainer in the end. Okay, that in the treaties that are signed, the Catholic Church might be the one that will gain. So for instance, when Japan attacked America at Pearl Harbor, which the Americans knew about because they had radar, and then they even destroyed some submarines that were approaching Pearl Harbor. They knew that the Japanese were going to attack because they'd actually put the Japanese on an oil embargo, which was actually a provocation. So America provoked Japan. Okay, it's not like America was just minding its own business, not doing anything. They actually provoked Japan. So when Japan attacked, America not only joined World War II because of that, but they also started fighting with Germany. Yet Germany hadn't attacked America in any way. So I wanted to just explain the whole thing about these veterans being said to have died for us, and for that they died fighting for our freedoms. No, what you have to remember is that most of the veterans at that time, so we're talking of World War I and World War II. World War I started in 1914, which is a year after the establishment of the Federal Reserve in America, which happened specifically in December 1913. And most of the money for World War I is said to have come from the Federal Reserve. That's one of the reasons why the Federal Reserve was set up. The men and women at that time most of them were Christians, and a lot of them were Protestants. So basically, World War I and World War II was also about killing Protestants. Remember that these were Catholic wars, okay, which were being fought against Protestants. But unfortunately, unlike the 30 Years' War, which was a war between between Protestants and Catholics, at least during the 30 Years' War, which happened between 1618 and 1648, the difference is that Protestants during the 30 Years' War would have known that they were fighting against Catholics, okay? But during World War I and World War II, most of those men and women, and most of whom were Christian, didn't even have a clue that they were fighting, that the war was unnecessary, first of all, and that they were being made to fight. They were being made to go to war so that they could be slaughtered, but these men went to war thinking they were fighting against, let's say, Adolf Hitler. Remember that I already said Adolf Hitler and the Germans did not attack America, okay? Yes, the Germans might have attacked the UK. So you find that what was happening was that you had, in some cases, you had Protestant countries that were actually being made to fight against each other. Because Germany, yes, maybe not the whole of Germany was Protestant necessarily, but yeah, quite large parts of Germany were at one point Protestant, and had large numbers of Lutherans and other Christian sects, let's say like the Calvinists and others. So Germany would have, parts of Germany would have been Protestant. The UK was Protestant, and then the US was supposed to be Protestant, and then these countries were fighting against each other, with obviously the UK and America aligning or fighting together against the so-called evil axis, fighting against Italy and Germany and Japan, with Russia fighting alongside the Americans. But then after World War II, the interesting thing is that Russia became the enemy. Basically, there's always a boogeyman. And I've also read that, or I think I read somewhere that the reason why Russia was said to be the greatest threat to the world after World War II was because there were many people during World War II, especially in Europe, who knew that the Catholic Church had started World War II, and they pointed to the papacy as being responsible for starting that war. And to get the heat away from them, the papacy then started this propaganda campaign to say that Russia was, the evil empire, to get attention away from themselves, just like what Francisco Ribera and Alcazar did with preterism and futurism, where they said that the Antichrist was in the past and the Antichrist is in the future, getting hit away from the papacy when Protestants had always known that the papacy or the Catholic Church is Antichrist, and especially the office of the Pope. Every Pope is basically Antichrist, according to Scripture and according to Protestants. Okay, but all these propaganda campaigns are done to get attention away from the papacy. So yeah, and then yeah, so I was just talking about how there's usually, you know, these evil men who start these wars, these Catholic priests and especially the Jesuits. They normally like to kill 2 or 3 birds with one stone. So part of the reason for World War I and World War II was to kill Protestants without them knowing, and reason number 2 was depopulation. You know, wars are also fought for the purpose of depopulating the earth. And that was part of the reason for the scamdemic as well. For those who are watching this video, maybe you're watching this video for this is the first video you're watching of me talking about this. I've explained this in other videos. You know, the scamdemic was not about a virus. It was actually a psychological operation that was run by the Department of Defense in America. Bear in mind that all armies around the world are controlled by the Jesuit general. So the Department of Defense was the one that ran the scamdemic under the guise that there was a virus, and with ultimately with the aim of getting people around the world to take the poke, and the reason for that was once again depopulation and you know, getting nanotech into people's bodies for those who will survive, so that human beings can fit into the Internet of Things. You know, human beings are not going to be left out of this so-called Internet of Things, where everything talks to each other. You know, the smartphones, the smart cars, the smart cities, the smart fridge, the smart kettle, the smart TV. All these things talk to each other, and then human beings can't be left out. They have to fit in somehow. So basically, these are the beginnings of what's known as transhumanism, where human beings are going to be combined with robots, creating what are sometimes called cyborgs or transhumanists, which is not God's design. God didn't design us to be transhuman. Okay, so yeah, so World War I and World War II, I'm going to repeat again, were about killing Protestants, depopulating the earth, as with all other wars, by the way, not just with World War I and World War II. And in the treaties that were signed, remember that in the oath of the Jesuits, it says that the Catholic Church should be the gainer in the end. So not only English, German, and American Protestants died during World War I and World War II, but even in Europe and Eastern parts of Eastern Europe, you had members of the Orthodox Church that were killed in places like Croatia, where sometimes even priests and nuns would remove their Catholic uniforms and put on camouflage or military uniforms to go out and slaughter so-called heretics, those that had a different belief to them. This is quite well documented. Avram Manhattan wrote some books talking about this, about the genocide that happened in places like Bosnia and Croatia, and even there was the genocide of the Armenians in Turkey as well. All that is to do with the Counter-Reformation. It's about the Catholic Church killing Christians, those who don't believe in the Pope and don't believe in bowing the knee to the Catholic Church, because, well, you know, the Catholic Church doesn't like competition. Okay, they want to be the they claim to be the one and only true church, and and then they want the other churches to bow the knee to the Catholic Church or to the Pope, to say that the Pope is the head of all the churches around the world. So yeah, so these wars, but especially World War I and World War II, were about eliminating competition, eliminating Protestants who did not acknowledge the Pope as head of the of all churches around the world. Or getting rid of Protestants who did not acknowledge the Pope as the successor of Peter, which is a nonsense anyway. Peter wasn't the Pope, and Peter was never worshipped by anyone, so the problem is that sometimes it's very difficult for Christians to put the finger on why certain things are happening around the world, or why certain things have happened in our history, because even our very public education system is actually run by these same people who are behind this agenda of destroying the truth in the earth. When I say the truth, I'm talking about true Christianity, destroying God's word and producing all these counterfeit Bibles, which have been printed since about 1890 onwards, from dubious Roman Catholic manuscripts such as the Codex Vaticanus and Codex Sinaiticus. This is what's really happening. Is they want at the very top of this pyramid is Lucifer, and perhaps in a separate video I might do a video just showing the hierarchy, even though I have done videos explaining how the world really works. I might do a video just showing some charts or some graphs of exactly what the structure is like that's controlling things here on this earth. Yeah, so the very fact that Adolf Hitler even said that he had fashioned his SS after the Jesuit order, and then also said that Heinrich Himmler was like Ignatius Loyola. It's very telling, and the very fact that Hitler was Roman Catholic. I mean, it's for me, it's about connecting the dots. You can just tell that Hitler was fighting for the Catholic Church, and even after his alleged suicide that happened in the bunker, when it is said that the Nazis realized that they were about to lose World War II, the Catholic Church actually came out and said that Adolf Hitler was a hero because he died fighting for the Roman Catholic Church. So yeah, so something very important which I'd almost forgotten is remember that after World War I, Germany was actually broke. And also they had to pay reparations, which have been said by many historians to have been very unfair. They only actually finished paying the reparations for World War I a few years ago. A lot of Germans who survived World War I felt that the reparations that were expected of Germany were very unfair, and they were unfair because actually Germany didn't start World War I. Remember that so I just started to pause the video just to think again exactly how World War I, how the official version of history says World War I started, which is not to be believed because it's all propaganda. But they said that Archduke Ferdinand and his wife were assassinated, and they were assassinated. I'm not questioning that, but I'm just saying that is given as the reason for the start of World War I. Germany didn't start. Is not the one who assassinated those two individuals, but Germany was blamed for starting the war, because remember, Germany was the birthplace of Lutheranism, so they had to be punished. Germany was the birthplace of Martin Luther, from which who started the Lutheran Church, which was a major thorn in the side of the papacy. Because maybe some Christians actually don't understand that Protestantism nearly destroyed the Catholic Church. It was only because of the Jesuits that the Catholic Church began to regain power throughout the world. and eventually, like it says in Revelation 13, there will be a point when all the world will wander after the beast, and when the ones who wander after the beast are the ones whose names are not written in the book of life. Those who are faithful and true to God will not follow after the beast. Okay. The beast of Rome. So yeah, so I was just explaining that Germany was broke after World War One, but somehow when Hitler came on the scene, Germany began to prosper and they began to build all these planes and all these tanks to fight wars. And there's a man who was called Anthony Sutton. He wrote a book explaining how the Nazis were funded by Wall Street. Okay, so basically Germany was funded by American businessmen. Okay, and also, before I forget, there was a man called Smedley Butler who wrote a book called War is a Racket. And in that book he wrote about how basically when he says war is a racket, he was basically saying war is a business. Okay, and it is. Okay, because the arms manufacturers and those who made the boots and the uniforms and the helmets and the guns that the soldiers used during both World War One and World War Two made money from that. Okay, so yeah, so Anthony Sutton explained that the Nazis were funded by Americans, and even some of the engines that were in the vehicles of the Germans were produced by the Ford company, the one that was started by Henry Ford. And then even the fuel that the Germans used during World War II came from Standard Oil, which was owned by the Rockefellers. So that's the Germans. And then if we go to the Russians, the Russian Revolution was also funded by the Americans. But then the funny thing is, at the end of World War II, it was said that the Russians were the evil empire, and then that the communists and the Americans hated each other. But the Russian Revolution was funded by Wall Street, and Anthony Sutton wrote a book about this as well. So yeah. So the point I was trying to address in this video, maybe I've addressed many issues. I do that because in case someone has a question about something that I've mentioned, I prefer to answer it rather than leave you hanging. The question was, did World War One and World War Two veterans die for you? No, the answer is no. Jesus died for you, not them. Okay, and as sincere as they were when they went to fight those wars, and some of those men, there's no denying it. Those men were brave. Many of them were brave. Okay, but they were fighting for the wrong cause. They didn't realize that basically all the armies. All the countries that were fighting, that fought in both World War One and World War Two, were being controlled by the Jesuits, and especially by the Jesuit or by the Jesuit general. Okay, what tends to happen a lot in military organizations is that you have a rank structure, obviously, but the rank structure, for someone to get to the top, they have to be part of a secret society, and then the secret society is controlled by the Jesuits. It's the same with the police. I was in the police. The police is full of Masons. Okay, that's why there are so many cover-ups, and that's why even during this pandemic, the police went against common sense and went against the Geneva Convention and went against all laws that or went against the rights of citizens and started beating people. Remember that the police beat people in various parts of the country, of the world rather. Even in Europe, there were men and women who were beaten for protesting against the COVID mandates. And then in South Africa, they also the army went out and started making citizens do frog marches and stuff like that for being outside, for being out in public during certain hours. And a lot of people were beaten up by police. Even in Australia, Australian police fired rubber bullets at citizens, and a lot of Australians were given fines, including in various parts of the world, including in America. People were given fines, which later on those fines were thrown out because it was a lot of nonsense. Okay, it was a psychological operation that was run by the Department of Defense, and I think I've already said that. So that's how that's what these two major wars were about. And yeah, so especially for those who are young and at of what they call military age, don't join the military and don't go and fight in any wars, because these wars are basically planned events, including the war that's going on in between Russia and Ukraine. These wars are planned for a specific purpose, which we are not told. Okay, there's always a hidden agenda behind it. Don't sacrifice your life for a cause you know nothing about. These are wars that are being fought to bring about a new world order. Yeah, so I'm sharing all this just so you can make sense of why certain things are going on in the world, why there's no justice, why things that are unfair are happening. Yeah, so I hope it all makes sense, and I hope this video is a blessing to you, and I'll see you in the next video.